Hey, everybody, this is Greg, and we're making a few changes here at the Industry Relations Podcast. Most of them on the back end, so you really won't notice them. But we are trying to get to a more regular posting schedule, so I apologize for that and appreciate your patience. But more importantly, on this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I discuss IOI, NAR's new CEO, the CCP, and other letters of the alphabet. Let's go.
This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hi, everybody. This is Greg, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to our newest sponsor, CoreLogic. There has never been a time when it's been more crucial for real estate agents to demonstrate their value to their clients, and CoreLogic has all the tools for them to do so. One Home has generated over 17 million unique users who are exploring listing and neighborhood data. Their invitation-only client portal has also amassed 2.3 billion listing views, and their new photo AI search helps turn clients' visual aspirations into reality. For agents on the go, there's MLS Touch, which is their top-rated real estate app in the App Store, which gives agents instant access to critical MLS data wherever they are, and also can be branded for collaboration as a client version. Next up is Realist. Realist gives agents expert level analysis of properties, which helps their clients make smarter decisions and also can help them with their lead generation efforts. All of this is underpinned by Matrix, the industry's leading MLS system. Currently, CoreLogic is rolling out Matrix 12, which will have a brand new interface that works perfect for mobile and desktop. Lots of great stuff happening at CoreLogic. Don't forget an update from your favorite rep, whether that's Rick, Todd, Kim, Lauren, or the rest of the crew, or visit their website. You can look at the link in the show notes. My thanks again for CoreLogic for sponsoring Industry Relations.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your host, co-host, the notorious Rob Hahn, and as always, but joining me from a special location, the fabulous Greg Robertson. What's
You're
happening?
right. I'm actually in the shadow of NAR headquarters here at the Sheraton in downtown Chicago. Yeah.
Right on. I was like, thanks for taking the time, man. I mean, recording from a hotel room is not the easiest thing in the world, but I appreciate you doing it.
Oh no, I think we both have done this before, but I will say this, that people are, we kind of disrupted their lives when we had a little bit of a hiccup there with the Wednesday podcast recordings, right? So I think we missed one day, and they're like, "Where's my Industry Relations?"
Yeah,
I heard that more than multiple times, right? People.
Yeah,
and,
I know. They're getting addicted.
Yeah, they're getting addicted. And the other thing I heard today was, I guess the August the show that we recorded in Inman, right, with Keith and James dropped, and some of the people said at the were asking me about the video because we recorded it, right, a video with all four of us, and what was the brown paper bag I had on my side, and a lot of people made the correct conclusion that I wasn't looking too well. And I had it there because I was about to gack at any time because we went really hard the night before.
Man, but you didn't go hard on the first night. That's the important part.
No, it was the second night or third.
That's
I forget what it was, but it was yeah. Anyway, so that's the mystery, and I think it's already been solved. But I'll cop to that for sure.
All right. Well, speaking of not going hard on the first night, I'm assuming you did not go hard on the first night at, I think, your IOI Summit, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've been following some of your tweets, so let's start with that. Like, how's IOI? What you hearing? What's interesting? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say the content is amazing. They've had some really good speakers, and I'm it's just like I'm asking for slides afterwards. Chris Gow from Lawrence and Hooley or some of the, they've just had a lot of great speakers, right? And really enjoyed that. And what I really came for though was the pitch battle.
Right. Who won?
What we don't know yet. It'll be actually announced in about an hour and a half here. So I'm curious to find out. Right. But what they also know, I've actually been this to before. I was at the first IOI battle and I was on the pitch battle. IOI Summit, and I was at the pitch battle for back then we had a product called Investor Connect,
I
for
remember.
Cloud CMA, which I was pitching,
Yep.
right? One thing that there's a pretty staple of this event is they really do a really great job on the production. So the stage is great. They've got high-end cameras. This time they're live streaming it on their LinkedIn channel, the NAR LinkedIn channel, which was great for the pitch battle. But amazing speakers. They have another kind of vendor area for some of the Reach participants. A couple different parties are going on, and this was also book into the leadership summit they had here. Right. So there was a lot of people that came for that and then stayed for the IOI stuff. Right. But
Right.
no, I love the pitch battle. What that reminds me of is back in the day when we would go to MLS shootouts. Right. So they would have this MLS come in, the next guy would come in, and somebody would turn the heat off after they left, or they'd unplug the phone, or it's all those kind of like little tricks. And there's a company I'm working with.
Yeah, I know you have a favorite in the pitch battle.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But if he were not to win, and we're speaking, of course, of Cole, with Tuesday, if he were not to win, who do you think would be second place, basically? Like, who'd you see that was like impressive?
Yeah, I mean, they really had a wide. Again, I got to give it up to because I heard there was like 100 people that had actually, registered to be on it, but they had to narrow it down to like I think 11 or 12.
Right.
So they got a wide variety of stuff. They have a guy who's doing 3D printed 3D houses, right? But they have another person that's like unlocking HELOC loans, right, in a special way. They have, there's always the CRM that has AI, and I'm like, that to me is like, okay, it's like it's a
So
chat
that's what I'm
GPT
saying.
wrapper.
So if it was up to you and you can't give it to Cole, who do you give it to? Because this is like you listed 10 or 11 pitch battles, so this has to have left an impression.
Yeah. I do think there is something to unlocking this equity in homes.
Okay.
And there's a couple people doing this. I think, William Schaffner over, he had Insta showings. He's doing something called Hitch.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. No, this is another company that's doing it. Right. But they're doing it they all have a little bit of different ways of kind of handling it. But I think those it's more of a fintech category to me are interesting. And then the second thing would be, maybe it's a toss up. The whole, as we talk about on the podcast a lot about housing supply, the printed houses kind of thing, I'm learning a lot more about it. And like, there's some that do it on site, some that do it in a factory and then they ship it. So there's different ways of doing that. I think there's something, and the guy that was there was pretty impressive. I think he was from the Ukraine, and they're doing a lot of special things with recycling plastics to do this, which is another kind of takes kills with two birds with one stone, right? So it's cleaning up the environment and creating homes in a very affordable way, right? So those are kind of the ones I think that to me stuck out. The stuff, the AI stuff is like, really, it's just a wrapper to ChatGPT. I mean, it's not.
Sure.
It's a feature, not really, I don't know why you make a whole product on some of these things. It's just, to me, it's,
All right. So you mentioned amazing speakers. So give me the top three. And like
right.
what
Okay. So
why'd you find this so amazing? Because not that easy to impress you.
Well, I mean, I guess because I'm more entering into your world of this consulting thing, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Chris Goff from... Anyway, he did a presentation about prop tech companies and valuations and where the market's at. And he just had the charts and graphs that they showed was a really great way of kind of talking about how companies are valued, where they are valued, where they're at now, what, I know this before, the 40% rule, and like, where do people fall? I mean, it just was like, it was really a great talk about what the market is right now for those types of things. Right. Yeah. Let's see, who else was kind of, I learned a whole bunch just from the 12 people giving, it was 4 minutes each, right? So that was the one thing about it. It's like, you only had 4 minutes. So just learning about all those new companies was in itself a real good thing. They did have a section on printed housing, right? So a guy out of Cleveland and this other gentleman that's doing it that was on the pitch battle too. And that's where he was talking about, like, they're doing just stuff in Cleveland right now and really making some good headway on that. The variety of what the content one, I just left one with a guy from Real, right? I think their technical guy, and he was going over
Yeah.
how they use AI, and that was rather interesting. And who else was good? I don't know. It's kind of fast and furious on a lot of this stuff, but I was like, I just know at the end of those things, I was like, oh wow, that was interesting, right? So I don't really do that a lot there, right? So I think Alex Lang puts it on, and maybe he's part of that curation of the stuff. But I think if it was Alex, he's done a great job with that. Yeah.
All right, man. So what's the biggest takeaway so far? I know it's not completely over, but
yeah, I think
what's worth discussing.
The biggest,
you and me chewing on. You know what I mean?
Right. There's some subtext to going on because of the leadership summit. So when I first got here, the lobby bar conversation is, I guess, Nykia, if that's the way you pronounce her name, who's now the official NAR CEO, had some closing remarks at that leadership conference where she was basically saying they were going to get ruthless, is the quote.
Yeah.
And really talk about hammering down on, it's not the old NAR. It's like she's really going to
hammering down on who? Because
I wasn't there.
I'm high on the list of anybody they want to hammer. So like, who they hammering? What are they hammering down?
I don't think so. I mean, I think just anybody who wants to kind of violate or like kind of get around some of these things that that they've agreed to. It sounded like, right?
So they're going to enforce the rules, the settlement. Okay.
No, but there was some people there that I know who were kind of genuinely impressed with. I guess she gave 2 talks. That second talk that she did, they said it was rather impressive. So, I mean, I haven't even listened to the interview that James did with her yet, but so that kind of to me was rather interesting. And then there's talk of, I mean, and literally the NAR headquarters is walkable from here, right? So there's supposed to be 2 special meetings, and I heard one went yesterday, maybe one's today, and I think they're talking about changing some of the governance structures, and I mean some bigger changes.
Right.
And another thing that was on the table I heard was, talking about the CCP, right, which we all kind of knew was coming a little bit, and and what that means, right? And I think you and I have a little bit divergent opinions on that. I think it's not a perfect policy, but I think that the fair housing kind of side of that to me always have made me lean towards of more of accepting than some of the flaws of it. But in this kind of litigious environment, I think that, and somebody had said this to me, I thought was pretty smart. It's like, well, brokers don't love it. The DOJ's on our ass about it, and we don't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I think, that in itself gives you the answer of what probably NAR is thinking, right?
So they're just going to dump it.
Whether, I mean, if I had to make a guess, I mean, that would be what I would make a guess for, right? I mean, and we've seen some MLSs already working in that direction, right?
Sure, like Bright MLS.
Whether it's hidden underneath the, they might call it something else, but it's been, it's actually in action. It is getting rid of it. So yeah, I mean, that, and I don't, maybe but there's also some hints of like, you've talked about this before with 1,000-member board and 70 people this, and how do you make things? I think that there's some of those things that are on the table now of like really maybe changing that. I don't know what that entails, or if that's just talk, and then when you get down to the dirt, nothing's going to happen. But
sure.
I mean, it's just everything is so, the structure of how things are set up. You've talked about this forever of this volunteer leadership and how everything is really governed.
Yeah.
The model is just it's kind of wackadoo, man.
Of course.
And maybe she can change that, right?
50 years.
No, 100 years.
You think they're going to change it?
No.
See, that's the thing.
I think there's an old guard there. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some policy. There'll be some changes there, but fundamentally, man, I mean, this is a systemic, culture that I don't know. Maybe, I know you had some criticism about the hiring of Nykia
Nykia.
of
Yeah.
Nykia of, she has no real estate experience, right? And she
It's
doesn't
a
have
giant
any
slap in the
relationships
face
in
of look.
Washington.
Yeah, no, hiring Nykia
Well,
Wright is a giant slap in the face of every AE in the country. I don't know how you
yeah,
can
again,
argue against that.
well, I can. You want me to hear my argument? I've
Yeah,
written a
let's hear
little
it.
bit
Yeah,
about this. Yeah,
yeah.
I think one of the things I think that is a problem is this backslapping and this kind of smoky room thing. And I've always had a saying, and that's loyalty costs,
Hmm.
right? You have like this kind of like, software companies have technical debt, right? There's really a loyalty debt. When you're there somewhere for 20 years and you're coming up the ranks, whatever, it's just you owe that guy a favor, you go with this guy a favor, this guy
Sure,
you promised this to get that, whatever. I mean,
sure.
when she came in, she got nothing, nobody's got anything on her and she ain't got anything on them, right? It's a brand new start. She doesn't have to worry about these kind of things that happen. Okay, well, I have to do this because they helped me get this and I had to do that, right? So I think there's a
Okay,
in this in the specific amount of what kind of problems NAR has had in the past, and I'm talking about the sexual stuff, sexual harassment stuff, and some of the other things. It might be a good move to get somebody in there that has no alliances to anything, and it just step up and say maybe that kind of person is the only one that could get real change done. I mean, so that would
okay,
be my argument to that.
sure. So my counter to that is all right. Two things. Number one, she does owe the people who got her into the job, right? In other words, she was a nobody. Like nobody knew who the hell this lady was.
No, okay,
Somebody in Chicago,
absolutely,
right? Bob
absolutely.
Goldberg, somebody knew her and said you should come in and be the interim
But that's not the
CEO.
same of like imagine that times 30 years,
No,
right?
I, I,
That's a
I,
that's a,
I
it's
grant
a
you. I'm
little
just
different.
saying. Let's not make it seem like she's coming in. She's like some independent. It's not like she was elected by the membership and it's like I owe nothing to nobody. She owes something to somebody, right? That's number one. Number two, the bigger point I think is this. So if the idea is that in order to effectuate change, NAR went out and found somebody who has zero experience, zero relationships in real estate, and to your point, that's a positive because now she doesn't owe anybody. She's not part of any political insiders club or anything. All right, cool. Is this unique to NAR or is this all realtor associations everywhere? In other words, why shouldn't Texas Associate Realtors immediately fire Travis and find somebody brand new, nobody knows, some newspaper editor from Dallas to come in and be CEO of Texas Realtors,
Okay, good point. But
right?
if it turns out that if there were problems there, like that were exposed at the NAR senior level, maybe they should. But I don't think anything's happened in Texas or Arkansas that we know about that would
Okay.
cause that type of thing to need to happen, right? And again, the hold on, let me talk about the experience thing. And I don't know the woman, right? This is just
Yeah, yeah.
trying to kind of think of both sides.
And I don't know the woman either, by the
This
way.
is
She might be
halfway just
amazing.
arguing
She,
with you is what
right.
that's
No, and she might be amazing. She might be like the
yeah.
exact leader, right? I'm just saying though, if that's the
And what she
case,
well, hold on. What
yeah.
she does have experience in, and you're right. I think there's something to say that she doesn't have any real estate experience. She does. I mean, it's a lobbying organization. Oh, she must be well connected in fucking Washington. Nope. But what she is an expert in is crisis management. That's been what her kind of resume has been that I've been told that have been. So in a situation that we're in now with NAR, I mean, somebody who's got a lot of experience in crisis management might be just what the doctor ordered.
Okay.
I
Well,
could
I
see. I could look at your
suppose
eyes. You're kind of googling, like, to see is
I'm
that true?
Googling Nykia Wright. I want to see this crisis management because I looked at her resume before, right? And I'm not seeing this like crisis management. Huron Consulting Group for 6 years, strategy and performance improvement consultant, and then North Highlands strategic advisor and consultant, and the owner of franchise brokerage company, and then Chicago Sun Times. Like, okay, maybe she has some crisis management specialty, like that's her thing, but she's not one of these turnaround artists, right? In other words, there are guys, right, especially in investment banking, that is literally their specialty, and they have a new job every 2 years, every 3 years, because they get
Yeah,
recruited to
yeah,
come
yeah.
in and fix this company, and then they move on, right? They're total hired guns. Right? I'm not seeing that from a record, right? So maybe she does. And again, I don't know the woman. She might be amazing. Okay. I am saying though, it's one thing to bring her as an interim, crisis manage, right? Fix this whatever issue we have with NAR. NAR is special because, to your point, there's been all these scandals and all these problems, right? That state and local realtors do not. But great, come on in, crisis manage. But to name her the permanent CEO, for the board, this executive leadership team to do that, if what you said is true, then you know what? They owe it to the industry to have come out and done like a televised fucking press conference, if you will. We're naming Nykia because this. And we know she has no experience in real estate. She has no connections. But we consider that a positive because there's too much politicking. There's too much back scratching. So in the case of NAR, and this is special to NAR, right? Granted, San Diego Association of Realtors might have a criminal conspiracy going on over there, but NAR, we control NAR, and we decided to pick this person for this reason. Otherwise, experience matters. Knowing the brokers matter. Like, without doing that, man, I just don't see, like, if you're, and I'm trying to think of some of the names I've heard. If you're, I don't know, like, remember we were talking about who I think is the most innovative realtor executive, right? If you're Emily Schenever, how is this not a slap in your face? Like, here you are, you have years of track record of success and innovation, and I don't even know she put her name in. I have no idea, right? I've heard Margie Grant out of Florida was kind of in the running. If you're Margie, how is this not like a slap in your face? Like, you ran Florida, the second largest realtor association, right? And I don't know what kind of personal, like what kind of political back shenanigans there are. I'm just saying she actually has like a track record of doing this, and just like gonna get passed over. Really? Okay. That's all. Then if I'm wrong, and I could be wrong, I would say that Kevin and the executive team had better start doing a lot of interviews justifying why they named Nykia Wright as the permanent CEO. Because they could have just said, we need to extend her contract by 1 year so she could finish the turnaround job, the crisis management job. They didn't do that.
Right. And again, we don't know what we don't know, right? There's knowns and unknown knowns, right? As to quote a certain defense secretary. Maybe they decided in order for any real change to happen, they had to name her a permanent CEO to get the jobs done that they needed to get done. And maybe it is a 2-year contract. We don't know.
We don't know.
We have no. We're just speculating here on these things about that, right? I mean, they did when they put out a press release. I mean, they listed out what her accomplishments were. Yeah. Who I didn't know. One thing I remember reading is like she was also a co-founder of a SaaS company. So there's she was like on a board of directors for some fancy business school. Yeah, she had led. I mean, so they put out what they thought were the credentials that made her qualified, and then they also referenced like the tenure that she's had of what she's accomplished, right? Which I guess somebody there was saying, okay, yeah, she seems to be the right fit. So they've done that. I mean, they haven't done a video, or I don't know what you're expecting here, but I mean, it's not like it's. It's more. So, I'll tell you this right now, Rob. It's more fucking information than NAR has sent out before about a lot of things. For Christ's sake,
I suppose. So here's how I'll interpret it. Again, I don't know Nykia Wright. She may be the perfect person for the job. Okay, I don't know. Right? She was named last year in November.
I don't remember. Yeah,
but it was
around that time,
right?
Yeah. It was right after the lawsuit, I think.
Yeah. So we're now in September, basically, because tomorrow, right? Yeah. If she's this amazing turnaround crisis management person, where's she been for 9 months? What's she done for 9 months?
Well,
she might have done a lot behind the scenes. She might have done a lot behind this. We don't know. Here's my thing, though. You're in crisis management. You're coming in from outside the industry. You owe no loyalties to anybody. To your point, you have no loyalty there, right? Why isn't she like on doing an interview with Inman every other week saying, here's what I'm doing, right?
I think that's what Kevin Sears has been doing. I think
Like,
that's what Kevin Sears has been
here's a
doing.
change I want trying to make. I'm getting pushback from this entrenched power group. I'm in the crisis. Like, I'm here to root out that power group because what do you got to lose? To your point,
Well,
some of these
again, I
people
think
who've been
Kevin Sears, I don't think has spent a day home in his own bed in the past fucking 9 months because he's been traveling the country talking to every realtor group.
yeah, that's Kevin Sears. I'm
I
talking
mean,
about Nykia Wright.
I've heard you criticize before, like NAR for like the stuff. Hey, why are they putting this out? This is not authentic. This is not whatever. They should just go back. They should just put their head down and go back to work. Maybe, again, there could be something positive about like, yeah, they're not putting out a bunch of fluff. She's been very busy. Kevin's gone around the country talking to everybody while she's trying to get things done. And a lot of times that doesn't mean that has to be on every news site.
No, but what I'm
Doing, and
I'm
she did
fine.
honestly. What was it? A week ago, she did an interview, a
That's
long
right.
cat, which you've always argued for.
A
He
week
says, "Why
ago.
aren't these people doing long
Right.
form
Right.
content like a
A week
podcast?" And
ago.
she went on a week ago. Yeah,
Because like
she's
what
been.
she been
I
doing
mean, imagine
for
she's been
nine
busy,
months.
man. I
She's
imagine
from the
she's been
news
busy.
industry, dude. So here's the thing, right? I don't want to look. I fine. Hopefully it all works out. My point is, if the reason for naming her is that she's this change agent, she's a crisis manager who owes nothing to anybody in the real estate industry, so she's freer to act. I feel like we would have seen something in the last 9 months, and we haven't. And to your point, Kevin
Like,
Sears is running around all over the country. She's the CEO, right? And fine, maybe you're not running around all around the country to talking to every local board, but that's probably not a bad idea if you don't know anything about the industry, right? Like if you, Greg Robertson, were tomorrow named as CEO of Ford Motors, presumably you'd want to go visit some car dealerships, Ford dealership, just to kind of figure out like what's going on here, right? Because I don't know nothing about, Volkswagen, but you know what I mean? Like, that seems like a reasonable thing to do. Like, I don't know anything about this industry, so I need to kind of really go figure it out. Like, why wouldn't that make sense? There's been none of that, none of it.
again,
So
so
I'm not criticizing. Like, maybe she's done amazing yeoman's work behind the scenes, like I said. And if you don't want to tell the rest of us, you have your reasons, right? I'm just suggesting that's why I'm a little skeptical, and why I feel like it is still a slap in the face of every AE in the country for her to be named the permanent CEO of NAR with no explanation, other than
well, they
the
did.
the typical PR pablum that you know what I mean. Like,
Right. I mean, again, again, we keep making this claim. I don't know, but like, just to counter what you're saying is that from what I, from what we've been reading and what we've been seeing is that there has been a really bad problem with NAR staff leadership.
sure,
Right. And, that when I talk about it, I mean, associations, we're not talking about,
right. Just
anything
talk about
else,
NAR.
but there's been
Yeah,
NAR, right? So
yeah.
it doesn't seem to me so unrational that she's been working with the NAR staff leadership at the headquarters to get that right. Right. So, because it's been a problem, right? The marketing department, all the things that have been there are because of the staff and how they've been acting, with the leadership there. So I think it makes a lot of sense that maybe she hasn't gone around there because she's been focusing on what the fucking main problem has been, which is that, right? It
Which
hasn't
is
been like,
staff.
which is staff, and it's people problems. You don't need to know about the entire industry to help solve people problems, right? And how people feel and what they've been through. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm,
she's heard a lot of war stories about like how awful things have been,
mm-hmm.
and trying to
Yeah,
like heal that kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
that doesn't require now, and so now, she picks her head up. Maybe she's got some new people coming in. Things are settled down here at NAR, and it's with the staff, right? There's a lot of bruised egos, a lot of people that were harmed, right? And she picks her head up. She does a podcast, and she's named this, and maybe we'll see part of that. But I don't think it's such a bad thing that it could be exactly that she's just been focusing on what to me has been from the outside looking in the main problem, which has been NAR leadership
How many people
or
have been fired
staff.
from
Sorry.
NAR
Well, how
since
many
she
people have been
started?
fired? Well, let's see. I mean, Bob's not there anymore.
No, since she started, where she fired them.
I have no idea. I don't know if we'd know that.
Well, if she's brought in to tackle the problems at NAR staff, don't you think we would have? It's 9 months, dude. I'm
Well,
not
I mean,
talking 9 days.
again, I don't know if who. I mean, I was going to say what news source would like talk a lot about firings or laying people off. And I'm like, well, Bender Alley might, but
Vendor Alley certainly
I,
would, and I'll tell you, every news type source would if Nykia Wright sent out a press release saying, "I just fired these 3 senior vice presidents because they were contributing to the problems at NAR."
I don't know.
Everyone
Maybe
would run that story.
maybe that's not her style. Maybe it's just like we're moving some people here, we're readjusting here. I don't know. I mean, again,
Okay.
you know,
Hey man,
these things
you are
that
much more charitable than I am. I get it, right? I'm just
well,
saying,
I've managed
crisis management.
right.
One of the very first things that crisis manager comes in the first typically 100 days, is they do all of the interviewing, all of the figuring out where the problems are internally, and they start just firing people. It's usually the first 100 days. So, all right, so maybe Nykia style is it'll be in the first 3 years instead of 100 days. I don't know. Whatever. If it works, it works. I hope it does.
Oh man.
Right. I hope it does. I still maintain until we see otherwise. Again, if you spend 35 years as an association executive showing success at one level to the next, and you know these people, man. Why am I talking like you don't know association execs or MLS execs? They start at some rinky dink, county, whatever, and then they, were successful there, so they get to the next level and they serve as like a
Yep.
GAD at this
Yep.
other, and then they move up, and at some point they get to like, I'm running a state, I'm doing a great job, right? And now this position, which is the ultimate prize, right? I mean, can we agree? If you're an association executive, right, in the United States, NAR CEO is pretty much the ultimate prize.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like being named to the Supreme Court if you're a lawyer, right? For that to go to an outsider with no clear explanation, right?
But it's not unprecedented, right? I mean, if we look back, I think it was Terry McDermott, right? Terry McDermott came from the architectural. He was like I think he was the president of an architect association, right? I mean, nothing.
Correct.
I don't know for sure, right? So I mean, again, I'll have to. I'm just trying to do a quick Google here.
Yeah. No, and look, there are local and state association execs who come out of other associations.
But NAR, what I'm trying to get at is that there has been precedent that NAR has hired somebody who is not from the organized real estate space, right? This is not something like this is the first time ever they've done that, right? And by all accounts, I mean, I feel that he was a CEO of the American Institute of Architects, and before that, he was a president of some publishing firm, right? Mm-hmm. He was the publishing for 23 years, the CEO of the American Institute of Architects for 4 years, and then he was a CEO of NAR for 8 years and 7 months, right? So this is it's not something that they haven't done before. And like by some accounts, a lot of people thought Terry was an effective leader too.
Sure.
Right. So, I mean, we hear things about Dale, we hear things about Bob, right? But I don't know if you can, maybe it's just because he hasn't been there in a while, but I don't remember hearing any vitriol towards Terry.
Well, it's a different time, number one. Number two, at least he was an association executive, right? Like he's dealt with membership organizations. I don't even know what the analogy would be, right? This would be like if, Trump gets elected and he nominates like, I don't know, just some business guy with no law degree to the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? We'd be like, wait a minute, like time out. And I say that as like, I don't hate the man, like even the Republicans would be like, time out. You're just naming some random, gross, like in banker to the Supreme Court.
You mean like his son-in-law? His like son-in-law to like foster peace in the Middle East?
Question would be like, time out. Wait, what? Right?
I mean, I think Trump exactly did what you said.
So,
yeah, he hired his daughter. I mean, the fuck does that?
We shall see. And they're like, man, they're all gonna do shit like that. But here's the thing: Trump was elected by the people. Nykia was not, and that's where the problem is. So the board and the leadership team, I think, has more of an explanation. That's all. They don't gotta explain it to me. They don't gotta do squat. They don't have to do anything different. But it does mean that people like me are gonna be like, that's a little odd. And I think it does mean that association executives in this country have had their feelings hurt, and rightfully so.
Have you talked to any of them?
Yes.
Are their feelings hurt?
Yes. They're
Yeah,
never going to say it
I haven't heard
publicly.
that. Right.
They're never going to say
I
it
haven't
publicly.
heard that.
Yeah, call some of them, dude. You know all of them.
No, I've been. There's a bar full of them downstairs right fucking now, man.
Did you ask them?
Yeah, I haven't heard that from. What I told you is they were impressed. A lot of the people that I talked to were impressed by her last speech there.
Okay. I hope she's hella impressive because NAR needs hella impressive now to get out of the jam it's in. So yeah, that's all. I mean, if it all works out, who gives a shit what I say? What's Kevin Sears' favorite thing? The man in the arena, as opposed to as opposed to people like me. That's cool, Kevin.
Supposed to be like to us in the stands. Yeah,
exactly. Right. No, that's cool, Kevin. You're in the arena. Nike's in the arena. Go see what you can do. Right. But here's the thing: if you're in the arena and you get your ass kicked, then you better be answerable for that too.
Right.
Right. The man in the arena thing only works if you win.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's the point of that poem or that thing, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least what the man in the arena about is like he's actually fucking doing something. Whether he wins or loses, he's in there fighting the fight, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah. And the reality is you have to win then, right? If you want the credit. If not, then we're going to question why we're in the arena. Right? If you're the man in the arena, you just get run over by the opposition. We're going to be like, why were you in the arena? Wasn't there somebody better we could have put in the arena?
It sounds exactly like what a spectator would say, actually. Yeah.
Exactly. So you better win. That's all. I mean, you better win. So I don't know. I mean, the whole CCP thing, I assume that's going to happen, right? Like all the arrows are kind of pointed.
Well, let's get a little bit into it. Like, what is your problem with? I mean, how would you describe CCP as a good thing, a bad thing? It's horrible. It's just flawed, or what's your background on that?
I mean, look, we know why CCP was implemented, right? It was because Compass came along and started doing off-market, coming soon as a corporate strategy.
Listing differentiation, right?
Right. I mean, we know, look, we can pretend it's otherwise, but what was it, like 2016, 2015, something like that? I very clearly remember it was in San Francisco when Inman was still in San Francisco. I very clearly remember Jim from MLS Listings, Jim
Harrison,
right? On stage at Inman San Francisco saying that 40% of the transactions in his market were done off MLS.
I think that sounds high, but it was a big number. You're right.
It was a big number. I want to say it was like 30 or 40%. And we all gasped, right? And this was before I think Compass really started this thing. So we were all talking about well, okay, what's going on, et cetera. And it was coming soon. A lot of these coming soon. And I think the focus of that conversation was around Zillow, because coming soons without Zillow were ineffective. Is basically the thinking, and all the conversations are how does the MLS prevent this from happening, blah, blah, blah. Number of people are like, this existential threat to the MLS, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Nobody did anything about it. We just talked about this off-market thing for years. And then Compass comes along and starts using that in a programmatic fashion, and then starts taking market share and top agents from existing incumbent brokers. Next thing we know, Section 8, right? Or
right.
Ocho, right? And then clear cooperation policy.
So
that's the background. So at a high level, I guess I feel like, who is this for? What was clear cooperation policy? Who was it created for? I know the excuse, the PR spin is that this is around fair housing or consumer access to listings, right? But was that really the reason, or was it because the MLSs were afraid that if this continues, then they just become meaningless? And I remember talking about that too as an MLS consultant. I remember talking about with David Sharon talking about the MLS Next. and advocated for something different. But it was very similar. Like the MLS has to sort of stay the center of the data universe. Um, my big problem with clear cooperation policy when it's said and done is if you're going to do that, then you can't have the broker exclusive loophole.
Right.
Right. That was my biggest problem with it. Secondarily, though, it's more of a larger big picture problem. There is something awfully, what do I call it? Not patriarchal, but awfully patronizing. A little bit of like, you brokers aren't grown-ups. Like, we need to tell you how to run your business. But there's a little bit of a flavor of that, right? That we don't trust you. You're stupid. You're idiots. You run around and you do these things to cheat people. We're the good people. We're the good guys. And we're gonna tell you how you gotta do things. Like within 24 hours, you must enter a listing into the like. There's a little bit of that where it just feels a little bit like paternalistic, right?
No, I
I
get
do have a
that. I
problem with
get that.
right? Like I feel like brokers and agents are grown men and women. Some of them are very successful business people. Most of them, as we've talked about over and over, most of them actually just want to do the right thing by the client. So shouldn't that be the default? You know? Shouldn't that be like, but then again, I'm a libertarian, right? So shouldn't it be we trust you, you guys are grown-ups. If you do something wrong, like actually violate fiduciary duty or actually do something that's shady, or actually engage in Fair Housing Act violations, then we're gonna come after you. But in that type of event, you got to wonder: is it just another fine and a slap on the wrist, or is it like, hey man, you violate fair housing, get the fuck out?
Right. Well,
Like we're
that's,
just gonna kick you out, right?
not a lot of teeth in there in this industry for
Right,
that, really.
right.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, to put this like loophole in that just makes it very, very clear that if you're a big broker, you win. If you're a small broker, you lose. Like I don't know if I'm not a fan of that for sure.
Yeah.
So
No,
those are my issues. What's your thinking?
yeah,
What's your
yeah.
take?
I think it's interesting. I did have a great conversation 2 nights ago with Nina from SFAR, and she cited the same thing. And she's like, "We're the petri dish where this whole thing." And what Nina said, and I hope I'm not blowing her up here, or my interpretation, I'll put it that way. If something happens wrong, and I thought this is so smart too. And it was really about the rollout of this policy and how different it was everywhere. In the case of San Francisco, what she says is what they did is like, you have to put the listing on the MLS so other agents can see this, right? What was in other MLSs, though, it was like a coming soon. It wasn't on the MLS yet. They waited to the last minute to put it on. And that's where kind of the problems began. So if you did it in a way where you had to put it on the MLS, well, now you have agent to agent marketing. There's still a lot of things that, an agent can reach out to those guys, even though they might be only marketing into their whatever buyer networks. They're gonna open it up to everybody, even though it might not be publicly displayed. And I thought,
Right.
that's a smart way of doing it. And the way a lot of MLS has implemented this with the loopholes and everything else, it just made it worse in a sense. So I think it's just flawed in the rollout. And this might be a thing, again, a criticism of NAR or whoever else, to like, how you implement things, how you roll things out might have been the main thing, right? So I hope maybe some thought about that, and like how, okay, if it goes away, can we put some sort of policy in place where now, okay, it's not mandatory, right? We can let brokers be brokers. We can treat them as adults, but like, hey, and listen, you're talking to the guy who had the hashtag out there, put it on the MLS, right? Which was on the cover of NAR's, Realtor magazine.
Right.
Put it on the MLS, man. You can do your whatever, but let the marketplace, see those listings so that they can participate. You can have your marketing strategies and do whatever else, but let the marketplace do its job, because I mean, all the studies show, when it has more people, they get better prices for it. I mean, there's been 3 studies that I know of that have proven that. So there's got to be something in that kind of thing. So hopefully,
let me ask you this.
Maybe it's something better. I don't know. Maybe we come up with something better.
Because I don't know when was the last time we actually talked about this, but how do you feel about the hashtag put it on Zillow?
Well, I mean, to put it on Zillow because they're a broker, it has to go on the MLS.
No, I understand, but so how do you feel about hashtag put it on Zillow? Because more people see it, better it is for clients, right?
I think it's. I mean, I think the hashtag put it on the MLS and put it on Zillow are basically the same thing.
What I'm suggesting is this: all the people that are talking about hashtag put it on the MLS, we're also strangely resistant to the idea that syndication is what's best for the client. If they could go back to the old days before Zillow became a broker and started pulling IDX feeds, those are the people like, don't put it on Zillow. They're selling our leads back to
Well,
us.
a lot of
those arguments, right?
a lot of brokers just tried that strategy and they went right back to mama
I,
because the sellers
I
demanded
agree.
it.
I think it's stupid. My
Yeah.
point is, I've always found it odd that the same people who are like Zillow's the devil were at the same time arguing for put it on the MLS because it gives you the most exposure to the market. I'm like, if you're talking exposure to the market, then syndication should be required,
Right.
right? And that's because there's that disconnect. What I'm saying is this really about consumers? And I think what I would advocate for going
Oh, it's
forward,
not about consumers. It's not about
exactly. So what
consumers.
I would advocate for going forward is, you know what? Make it about the consumer. What's in the consumer's best interest? Because there are cases, and all of the people who are defending coming soon back in the day would bring this up: the luxury seller, the sports
The
athlete,
celebrities. Let's fucking change the
celebrities.
entire fucking,
Right,
the
right,
whole ecosystem because
right.
one celebrity doesn't want somebody coming in their house.
Right, and
Fuck
I'm
you.
100% with you, right? However, I do think, look, if the general guiding principle is what's best for the consumer, right? Then I feel like we could come up with rules and understandings that kind of everyone can agree to, right? Except maybe for like really selfish scumbags, which case like we don't care what you think because you're really selfish scumbags, right? But if at the end of, and I don't, most brokers and agents aren't those people, man. I sold onto this, like. Sure, there are a couple bad apples here. Most brokers and agents like they genuinely just want to do what's right for their client. If their client insists, like, look, I don't want to stage my house. I don't want to do nothing. Can you just kind of see if you know people that will buy my house, right? Before I gotta put it on the market. If the consumer wants that, then do it for them. You know what I mean? Do it for them, right? And it shouldn't be about like the MLS, the value of the MLS or the Realtor Association, our rules and the this, and just do what's right just do what's right for the consumer, right? And I feel like that should just be a general guiding principle. This was the big to do and argument we had around the forgery issue. I'm like, just do what's right for the consumer, right? And if you do that out of genuine like desire to what's right for, I don't think we're going to have that much disagreement. I don't think we're going to run into that many problems. You know what I mean? I just don't think so, right? Now there may be other thorny questions that rise up, and we could always come up with
Well,
edge
yeah.
cases. But
It's
clear cooperation
yeah, but I mean,
policy. What would clear cooperation policy look like if it was genuinely starting from the position of what's best for the consumer?
a lot of times I think in these different things, because I think clearly not exposing a house to as many people as possible is not best for the consumer, but it does help a brokerage make more money because of all that you talked about. Where now they're going to
Right,
like they have exclusive inventory. All the agents are going to have to go
right,
there. The other
right.
brokers are going to be at a disadvantage. It's
So,
I think there's like a balance. Like I said, like
right.
what Nina was saying, like put it on the MLS. You can play your games, but at least the market can see it. And hey,
But
I
the
might
market
have a
can't
buyer
see
for
it.
this. I don't think. Well, other agents can see it, right?
Right.
I mean, you're at
Which is
least
not the market.
you're. It's like another. Again, it's not perfect, but we're
Right.
never going to get perfect,
Right.
right? Good, when it's that they say perfect is the enemy of good, right? But
Right.
let's learn from this and let's implement something that it's not exactly this and it's not exactly that, but like a good in betweener.
But again, like the issue there is what's best for the consumer is maximum exposure. 99% of the time. 1% of the time, what may be best for the consumer is not maximum
Point
exposure.
point five, yeah.
Right. And the issue then comes down to we, the MLS, we, the realtors, we, the industry, don't trust the agent. Like if an agent comes and says, "Listen, I'm going to do this coming soon. I'm going to do this exclusive because that's what's best in my client's interest. What you're saying is we're saying you're lying. You're doing this so you could double end the deal or because you could make more money. We don't trust you. We don't trust you to do what's right for your client. That's
Well, a lot
effectively
of
what all this
MLSs,
regulation.
again, a lot of MLSs will, require that the seller signs a certain form and able to do that, right? So there's some workarounds that MLSs have come up with.
I don't even think it's workaround. I think it's more, just trying to deal with those. I'm just getting to the overall general point, right? That it's because you don't trust the agent. If you trusted the agent, right? If the default was you just trust the agent, you're a fiduciary, you know what you're doing, you're well trained, right? And then you say, I'm not going to put this on the MLS because my client, whatever, some situation, right?
Yeah, but I
My
mean,
point
look
is,
at like all. I mean, you've been getting texts. I've been getting texts. I actually, threw something up the other day on Vendor Alley of, a broker immediately changed the price from like, $7 million even to $7 million and $2.50 and put it in the MLS that way. No, they're just crafty. I mean, it's not even a trust thing. It's like you're managing school children of like. I mean, the whole thing about cooperation compensate or cooperation of competing things is like that's it's a tough gig that
it
they
is,
have there, and
it is,
compliance is becoming even more of a bigger issue now. So,
yes,
it is trust, but it's human nature too, right? I mean, there's more than that. These are competitors against each other, and it needs
yeah,
some sort of person in the middle there, whether you want to call it trust or a police
not
officer or a referee, right?
sure,
Somebody's got to be there to make sure that the rules are followed, so that you can keep this unique thing that we have you
sure.
know, more than anybody else in the world alive, right? And it's messy, but I think it's still the best system out there.
Oh yeah, what I'm getting at though is like it's just all approaching with the position of we don't trust you. Okay. All I'm suggesting is this: what if we got to a place where the default is we trust you? Right? And I think I bring this up because I think that's where NAR was when it was founded. Think about it. It was founded because, real estate was the Wild West. You had the curbstoners, the liars, the cheats, right? So the honest business people got together and said, you know what, we're going to create this association. We know each other. We know if you are a realtor, you've agreed to abide by the code of ethics, right? We know you're trustworthy. Like there's a baseline of trust. It doesn't mean you don't have bad apples. It doesn't mean you know what I mean? Like, but because it's voluntary, if you have actively decided I'm going to join this realtor thing, I could be like, you know what, you're holding yourself to a higher standard than the scumbags that are out there, right? So I'm looking forward to that day, right? Where, and let's
No,
face it,
I
we've
mean
talked
it's
about this.
it
A lot of the low level kind of, really kind of shady, untrustworthy agents, they're probably not going to be around for that much longer just because they can't make enough money under the new system, right? I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a very successful agent in Texas. And he's like, I'm not having any issues. My clients know my value, right? And I
yeah.
educate them, I explain to them, and then we go back. And I'm not worried about him, right? Similarly, I'm just not that worried about agents who have, who are trustworthy, right? Are they perfect human beings? Of course not. What I'm saying is, for the most part, they know they're going to make money. They're just trying to figure out what's best for my client, right? Some case that's maximizing the dollar. Some cases getting the deal done faster. Some cases, you know what I mean? Like, I
No,
do
I get it. I
believe
mean,
that, right?
yeah, and let's they always say that change starts at home. So I'm glad to hear you say that, and like that now Rob Hahn is going to trust NAR to do the right thing,
I don't
and
trust
that's where
NAR.
he's going to base.
No, so that's the problem. NAR now has a long record of doing the wrong thing, right? So now they're going to have to earn my
I bet
trust.
you there's an MLSs out there that know that the members have a long record of doing the wrong thing, that they have to
Correct,
watch those
right,
guys like a
correct.
hawk,
So
right?
that
So
gets to my. So here's my thing: if you're an MLS and you're like, I don't trust this person, kick them out. Just kick them out.
yeah.
Like, why do you want someone you can't trust? Maybe you give them three strikes. The first time you're new, you don't know what the hell you're doing. We're going to bring you in for training and education, right? Second time, like second offense, like, hey man, one more and you're gone. Third strike, you're out. We can't trust you. So we could have all these rules and spend all this time doing compliance and whatever else. But maybe it's like, look, we're trying to build a high trust community here, where we hold each other to this like standard of let's just try to do what's
Code
best
of
for the
ethics.
client,
Yeah.
right? And maybe the code of ethics, maybe that's something else. I'm just saying, the general understanding is we're all professional. We're trying to elevate ourselves. We're trying to aim at this thing. But what's that thing? It's not what's best for the MLS. It's not what's best for realtors. It's what's best for the client, right? It's what's best for the Mr. Home Seller and Mr. Home Buyer. And you keep fucking that up, man. We can't trust you. If we can't trust you, you shouldn't be part of this. Get out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But we don't do that. Instead, it's just like $50 fine, piss you off, this and that, and then more rules and more committee meetings. And it's like, underlying it all I'm just suggesting is that fact of the matter is most MLSs, because of experience, don't trust most of their membership. And I'm saying maybe the solution isn't more rules and better compliance. Maybe the answer is, start booting them, start getting rid of the untrustworthy ones. Is that not something to consider? Right? That's all.
I'm sure some MLSs have some policies in place, but I don't know all of them. They're all probably all different too. Yeah.
It takes some doing to get booted off the MLS.
Yeah.
Because they're all afraid of like, we're gonna get sued, this and that. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying, as you think about all of those things, as you do the strategic plan, the NAR leadership meeting or whatever, I'm just saying, like, look, it's almost like we've all in organized real estate lost a little bit of sight of what we're doing all this for. Right? It's not to protect the MLS and protect the realtor. It's like, no, it's about the consumer. Like, we're all doing this so that Mr. Home Buyer and Mrs. Home Seller can meet and make the American dream happen. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, as long as you kind of bring focus back to that, I think we'll get to the right place. You know what I mean? I think we go sideways, especially me. Like, when I feel like somebody's just trying to argue for something in their self-interest, like, okay, but that's really because you want to keep the membership numbers high so they could keep, like, that doesn't fly with me. Like, what's best for the consumer? Let's start there and then talk about the details, right? That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, I can't believe we actually got an hour out of
Well, I'm going to go downstairs. They're going to announce in about just a little bit about who the winner of the pitch battle was, and then I'm going to Pearl Jam tonight over at Wrigley Field, so I'm really excited about that too.
Right on. Yeah. I didn't know they were still working, but I'm glad.
Oh yeah, no, they're still alive. Yeah.
Gen X music, baby.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Hey, thanks for everybody for listening, and thanks, Greg. I'll see ya.
Thanks, man.
All right, bye-bye.